doing? What you doing? I be in the break room. I be in the break room. Hit 'em in the break room. What you doing? What you doing? Hey, what we doing? I be in the break room. I be in the break room.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Action Jackson, we are inside of Bink's break room on a Tuesday.
Yes.
What's going on? What's the problem? What's all
No, actually, like as soon as we came on, you knew, like everybody else has done, we still are going through our home renovations. We've had. And so the guy that was working on the inside was saying goodbye as soon as you came on. So it's like, I was like trying to wave at him goodbye and coming on at the same time.
It sounded like he was stomping or something.
No, it's all good. What's up with you? Oh man, chilling. Huh?
I'm saying, is Charlie upset?
No, he's good. He's fine. He's not making any noise right now. He's content right now. I'm excited because number one, we got guests in the backstage, and two, I mean, it's been so much fun trying to get this ride done. But today I couldn't ride again, and I'm so disappointed because I'm doing the April challenge, the cancer ride 300 miles in April challenge, and you know. It's been windy here in Texas. See, that's not Charlie. That's you.
That's not Charlie. That's
you.
That's Zoe. That's Zoe.
Yeah.
Be quiet, Zoe. I'm on.
What's up, Kathy? Hi.
Thanks for joining us today. Well, today is a big day for you. I know it's a lot going on. Just real quick update. I haven't gotten an update on DMX, so my last word on that was that that he was breathing on his arm, but you don't know because you get so many different reports. But definitely prayers for DMX and his family. I'm hoping that he pulls through. You know, I was looking forward to seeing him next month. That's selfish me talking. I was looking forward to seeing him perform because if you have ever been to a DMX show, oh my God, you know. He don't even really be doing nothing, but it's just the energy that he brings with it, you know.
Yeah. He's always been a good entertainer. Anytime you've seen him live, I mean, DMX brings the show. He's one of those people, I mean, you go see live and you're like, man, I'm glad I went to go see him live. I mean, because it's just one of those experiences that you just enjoy having, seeing a DMX concert.
Yeah, so we wish him a quick, speedy recovery. Deshaun Watson is in the news. People are coming forward saying that he's done something, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow. I just, I hope that situation all works out. And there's our guy. There's Big Bink.
There's a fearless leader.
I'm sitting there waiting on the link, but you had sent it early this morning. I'm sorry. I didn't even know.
Yes. Yep.
I apologize on that.
I was where Bink
is? Yeah. Now she said this afternoon for our guests. Yeah, we coordinated, Bink. You got it.
I guess you didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
I don't have one of them.
Yes, you do. We sent you one.
Did you? I don't think it came to my house. We on what the phone?
We live.
Yeah.
Well, I just about to say something. Jesus Christ.
We live.
Don't say it.
We have guests here. Our guests are already here.
Yeah.
Oh, they here? Oh,
yeah.
I'm tripping.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
That's my ex-favorite rapper. She's talking about DMX. He looked like him and knew every word of all his songs. You know what? I love DMX. I wanted DMX to like holler at me because I loved his voice. Like I just wanted to hear him talk to me. Like if he just called me on the phone and just talk.
Yeah, I mean he was one of those early rappers though that went successfully from music to movies. I mean, with no problem. I mean, and he was very credible in his movie roles too, as well, that he played. I mean, like I enjoyed every movie DMX came out with, along with his music as well. So I mean, he was really talented on all facets, and it was just sad when he went down that rabbit hole that he went down. And again, just prayers out to him, and hopefully he'll get back on track, man. Because again, he's one of my favorite rappers.
Yeah, very giving. You know, he didn't really do it for the money. He didn't necessarily want the money. He gave a lot of money away. You know? And when I watched a documentary on him, I think it was probably about 6-7 months ago when they explained the story of him and the Rough Riders and what really happened. And you learn more about just him as a person.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, he was a cool rapper.
There's two things that come to mind when we think about somebody like DMX. Like you said, I think I saw that same documentary you talking about when they talked about, he was homeless. They talked about how he left home early because stuff wasn't right at the crib. They talk about how he stuck up people. Him and his dog used to stick up people repeatedly, and a little of that karma came back to him. But he kept he had a chance to do something, with this hip hop thing, and he did it. I remember one time I played Slippin', which is my favorite DMX song, Slippin', from here in Dallas, Texas, all the way down to Commerce, Texas. I don't know, it's probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I listened to that whole. That's how I learned all the words to the song. But that particular song, "Slippin'," it's kind of different than all of the other stuff that he's known for. He's known for "Y'all gonna make me lose my mind where my dog's at." Who we be? Aggressive DMX. But this "Slippin'" song, even though it was told through the heart, and it was hard, it was still a more laid back song, at least for him. And it was a great story. If you listen to the words, he's telling a story about how a lot of times, he's trying to stay away from it. Keep, like Pookie said, New Jack City, keep calling me, and they kept calling him, and he's trying to stay away from it, of slipping, of falling. I can't get up. You know what I'm saying? If you listen to the words, you'll just be like, dang. So let's hope he gets better. So many reports out there: little brain activity, no activity, organs failed, kids coming in one by one to see him, 30 minutes on the floor, in cardiac arrest before the paramedics got to him. No, before somebody got to him. Not to mention the paramedics coming later. So all we can do is pray. All we can do is pray.
Who did they ever say who found him?
I think one of his family members found him, but it was at least 30 minutes later after, he had the heart attack and OD, which triggered the heart attack, he was down there for a while until one of the family members, found him. And then, you got to get time for the paramedics to get there. So, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough comeback, but again, hopefully he will come back. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever had an overdose before. I know he's had problems, but maybe this might wake him up.
Yeah, I think he has had an overdose before. I think.
Yeah, well, I need him to get back to Tim, and he can drop them twins that he was carrying when he did the verses with Snoop Dogg. And, get the six pack back. Come on, X. We need to give it to you. Give it to us one more time.
And I was about to say, damn, I didn't know you had some more kids. You talking about
no? She's talking about his polite his daddy belly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He got a pop-out belly. That's just
he got a pop-out belly.
I mean, in rehab they was feeding him, so he was definitely getting fed.
Well, speaking of coming back, Action Jackson is making a comeback again. Every year for I don't know how many years he's been doing this ride for 545 miles. And I know at least the last 3 years he's been trying to get me to come aboard and ride. And at first, I was all
I'll be up in the morning.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna do it until I was out riding with you and your wife, and I failed. When I failed, that messed me up. So I was like, well, I don't know.
She's been traumatized ever since.
I said, well, I'll be a roadie in it because I do believe in the cause. I think it's a great, amazing cause. I just think 545 miles is a long, long time. So coming up in 2022, will this be your 7th or 8th year doing this particular ride?
This particular ride, I actually started doing this one when I met my wife in 2002. That was the first AIDS life cycle, and back then it was the California AIDS ride. So that was my first one doing the California ride. But this particular ride will be my 5th time doing it. When I do it this in 2022, it'll be the 5th time.
It'll be the 5th time?
Yeah, the 5th time.
You said you started in when?
2002. Well, see, we started in 2002. Me and my wife did the ride. We did the ride again, and then we decided to have kids. And then we took off from we took off from cycling, and we were like, okay, we're not going to do the ride. We're going to have kids and raise a family. So then, when the girls got older, and could be a little bit more on their own, a little bit more efficient with doing what they got to do. Me and my wife were like, hey, let's start doing the ride again. So then we started back doing the ride, and we did it this will be my 3rd time on the comeback on the ride.
Okay. Well, even though we're in a pandemic and they're not having the ride this year, they are still raising money. So the world has changed.
Yes.
Mission has definitely not. Together you can ride. Grab a life by the handlebars to end AIDS and HIV. Okay. Anybody and everybody can be a part of this. And today we have some special guests on from AIDS Life Cycle to tell us more about how you can donate and be a part of this great cause that's been going on for some years. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome before I bring on our guests real quick. Okay, you guys see the website down there, actionsaidsride.com, actionsaidsride.com. If you go there, you can make a donation to Actions cause, because the goal is to raise, we say 3,000. How much money are we trying to raise? I forget.
As much as we can. There's no limit to giving, people, but there is a minimum that we have to raise, but we don't worry about minimums. We worry about just raising money. So give what you can, when you can, how often as you can, and all proceeds go to the AIDS Life Cycle and the helping out the San Francisco and the Los Angeles chapters. So you're good to go. That money goes to a good cause and a worthy cause all the time.
Kathy says, how did you fall? Did you press the front brakes and went overboard like I did when I was about 14? Kathy, this is the thing. On these bikes, you have to wear shoes that click into the pedal. So when you want to stop, you can stop, but you can't just put your feet down. You have to click out. And I had a fresh pair of shoes, fresh new pair of shoes, fresh new pedals, and I hadn't, what do you call it? I hadn't clicked in and out.
Yeah.
To make it easy. So I was trying to stop, and I couldn't click out to put my feet down to catch myself, and I fell in the road.
Yeah. Everybody has their fall story, though, Kathy. Trust me, I guarantee you, when the guests come on, they can tell you tons of fall stories that they've seen throughout the years they've been doing the AIDS Life Cycle.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Mr. Gonzalo Garcia. And first of all,
there you go.
Hi. I will tell you my first falling story.
Okay.
Because I had the same issue. I got my first bike. I was living in New York, and I was riding to a friend's place, and it was sort of the end of winter. So there in New York, after it snows, there's like tons of dirty snow piled up on the sides of the streets, and I didn't know how to clip out either, and I just fell into a bank of dirty, disgusting New York City snow in front of many people who saw me just sort of like panic and tip over, and I fell, and friends had to come get me. So we all fall. We all fall.
We fall down. Okay, so Gonzalo, I've been talking to you back and forth most of the day, and I understand that you work with AIDS Life Cycle. So can you give us a little backstory on you? How did you begin working with the organization?
Yeah, so I've been with the organization for a little over 8 years now, but I've been with AIDS Life Cycle for about 11 years. I was living in New York, and my friends told me, oh, you should do this bike ride from San Francisco to LA. And at the time, I was a spin instructor and a fitness instructor and a personal trainer. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to do this because it's San Francisco to LA. I can brag about being able to do this. And so I joined. And after my first year, I completely fell in love with the organization and came back several times as a cyclist. And then they offered me a job because I was recruiting so many people in New York to come do the ride. They were like, hey, we have a job for you. And I thought, oh my God, this place hires? Like they actually give jobs? Oh my God, I want to work here. And I fell in love with the community and with the work from the center and the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. You know, the work that they do is so important to communities who need help, especially around healthcare. I felt really drawn to their missions. So I've been working there for over 8 years now. And I get to work with amazing people like Percival, who's right here with me.
Good afternoon, everybody. Unfortunately, I don't have any falling off bike stories to share with everybody. Gonzalo invited me on because my work is significant because it really speaks to where donations thrive and how donations are used based off the participants in AIDS Life Cycle. I am a program supervisor here at one of our satellite spaces in Los Angeles, specifically our newest center, which is the Center South, located in Leimert Park. And basically, the dollars that we receive from the ride help to facilitate programming to increase knowledge around like HIV prevention, people access to HIV healthcare in communities like South Los Angeles. Currently, our South Los Angeles location has been open for the last year, providing healthcare services and educational services, and also access to reproductive services for individuals.
So you said that you, at Pandy, you said that you work in like I guess it's like I don't want to call it a clinic.
No, it's more like a hybrid model. Like it's a community center with a clinic within our community center, because the real directive or the real kind of format we try to set up is that this is a space for community to come and access education, right? And specifically working in the African American community, we really try to work on dispelling stigma around HIV, and also again access to healthcare, whether that be around sexual and reproductive services and or general medical care.
Okay, so if I am concerned, maybe I need to be tested. Maybe I feel like I need to be tested. Mm-hmm. Is this a place where I can come and be tested?
Yeah.
Direct me?
No, it's definitely a place you can come and test. But once we get you into tests, we like to kind of give you what we call our navigation. We like to bring you into our service point, offer you the service you want, which is HIV testing, but also tell you about other supportive programs and services to make sure that you are well equipped to understand what risk reduction is in regards to HIV. So, like the usage of condoms and the usage of other preventative modalities or, preventative medications that you can use in regards to HIV. So we give you all the information because our main goal in community is to make sure that you have access to all the information around prevention of HIV and STIs.
Well, let's talk about that. So let's kind of walk through that. So if I come into the center and I say, hi, I think I need to be tested for HIV. What type of test do you give me? Is it the rapid test? Is it something that I have to wait for?
So we do the rapid test. It's 1 minute. So, we went from the days of 2 to 3 weeks. Then we advanced to 20 minutes. Now it's a 1 minute test. You walk in, you would meet with our front office personnel. You will take a risk risk survey, kind of like just letting us know like what are your habits, what are the ins and outs, so we can kind of direct you again, have a conversation about prevention methods around your practices. And then, you know, by the time we finish that conversation, I'm ready to tell you your result. And, you know, people find it sometimes amazing. They don't realize that it only takes 1 minute to know your status these days.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's say
Nice.
the test and my results is negative. What are the next steps then?
So negative, we really try to frame the conversation around, again, like we try to understand what risk reduction works for you. Do condoms work for you? Do medications work for you? Or even, you know, we try to talk to the dialogue and understand what people want to have condomless sex, because it's natural to want to have sex without a barrier for anyone. Like, it's not really natural or, you know, normal quote unquote sex to be wearing a condom. That's something we've instituted because of the a epidemic that we've been facing for the last 30 plus years, right? But again, it's something you have to really talk people through, and you have to really understand individuals in all kind of intersections of self, not only your sexual identity, but, you know, like, what is your relationship to sex? Like, I always tell people, like, when you were growing up, how did your parents introduce the idea of sex to you? Did they ever introduce that idea of sex to you? How do you and do you operate in sex in a shameful manner? And I say in a shameful manner because some people, I speak to adults every day, you know, well into their mid-40s, that can't even express to me in words what they like to do sexually. And that's a problem, really, when you're talking about risk reduction and really understanding your relation to HIV in your community and how you can be susceptible to HIV. If you don't have the words or the vocabulary to talk, or no one has given you the platform to talk and kind of like advocate for yourself and the sexual behaviors that you kind of engage into, it's really something that's a starting point for a lot of people, you know, because we don't, specifically African American communities, we don't necessarily have, you know, the best relation around sexual health, especially when it comes to teaching our youth about, you know, not just the physical, but the mental and the emotional kind of attachments that come along with sexual engagement.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm sorry. Well, I'm gonna let you talk, Bink, I promise. So, there is, you know, you talk to them about possibly using condoms or the medication.
Yeah.
Medications are there that people can use if they want to participate in unprotected sex or condoms.
So currently we have two prescriptive modalities. One is called PrEP. One is called PEP. PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's a medication regimen that you start, and you start it by taking, first you have to be negative. Once you're given a negative diagnosis, then you are started on the medication, and you take one pill once a day. And it's shown with taking this one pill once a day, it prevents you from contracting HIV. Now, this is only HIV. As far as STIs like herpes, gonorrhea, syphilis, you would still have to preemptively wear condoms, or what we like to call partner reduction. Like, if you have more than one partner, if you reduce your partners, in general, you reduce your contraction of any STIs and or HIV. So that's PrEP. PrEP is one pill once a day. It was almost formulated to mimic what birth control looks like for women. So it's like you take the pill once a day and you pop it at the same time every day, and it builds and boosts immunity. For men, it takes about 7 days to see this whole immunity that comes from PrEP. For women, it takes about 30 days, a month, and that's just because of the different kind of setups in the general area. It seems that when women take it, it takes a little more longer for them to create the whole immunity seal with the PrEP. So for men, it's about 7 days. For women, it's about 27 to 30 days when you start your PrEP regimen. Now, PEP is post-exposure prophylaxis. And I explain this to people. This is kind of like, I went out for the weekend and I had fun, right? I may have hooked up with someone that I didn't know about, or I may have hooked up with the ex or someone that I'm really not aware of their sexual behaviors and habits. So after I have that condomless sex, I can go into my medical provider and request PEP. And PEP is a modality that's given within the last 72 hours. So, for example, you have sex on Friday, you have until about Monday to access PEP. and then you're given a 30-day regimen of medication that is shown to prevent the contraction of the virus, or your seroconversion, your status seroconversion. When they say seroconversion, if you're negative, you become positive. So it's shown to prevent seroconversion in 30 days of this application.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've come a long way medically with this whole disease that's been ravaging America for a long time. My quick question for you before Bink gets in here is, can you explain to everybody out there how the AIDS ride and the funds help what you guys are doing?
So again, the funds that are raised during the AIDS ride come to facilitate low cost, no cost access to HIV care for those who can't afford HIV care. It also provides education programs for youth to engage and understand about the risk reduction methods around HIV. And also the correlation, it helps to provide education around the correlation of STIs, formerly known as STIs, and HIV. Because what people don't understand is when you acquire STIs, it kind of be weakness in your immune system when you acquire STIs in a way that lets your system be more susceptible to the contraction of HIV. Specifically, if you are actively having sex while you currently have gonorrhea, syphilis, it makes it almost 5 times easier to contract HIV because your immune system is already kind of in an open state. You know, we want to think of your immune system as a closed system, and when you acquire disease, sometimes that disease opens that system. And in your body's best efforts to fight certain things off, it still leaves you in a weakened state. So, you know, that's why we like to give people the correlation between the contraction of STIs and HIV, and to reduce the risk around both.
Nice.
So I'm about to say some dumb stuff, and I'm saying it. I'm saying it because I'm ignorant. Ignorant meaning I don't know, and I know there's a lot of people who might think like I think, and maybe haven't done the research and just don't know. So the fact that you guys are on here shedding light on, you know, AIDS and HIV, this is great. So, I mean, any one of you can answer, but I want to start from the very beginning. When AIDS was scaring everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And HIV was scaring everybody. Me, myself, in college, in the 90s, I thought AIDS and HIV was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're very different, but I don't know if people know the difference. Can you guys shed light on the difference between AIDS and HIV?
So I would put it like more, instead of a difference, it's a progression. When you initially contract HIV, and HIV is human immunodeficiency virus, is saying that your immune system is such a state that it's not providing protection. So when you think about your immune system and it interacting with disease, HIV says that you don't have enough fighter cells or white blood cells to prevent disease from occurring. Because what HIV again does is leave your system open. Right? Most people don't pass away or it doesn't advance with HIV. What happens is HIV is susceptible. So if you acquire HIV and then you say you were to get the flu or say you were to get COVID-19, it would exacerbate those things because your system is open. Your immune system is not close to protect itself. And AIDS is simply a progression to further state that your white blood cells have gone so low that the body cannot fight off any disease. Usually when people progress to AIDS in the earlier days of the epidemic, it was almost a guaranteed death sentence because there was no therapeutic way that doctors and scientists used to increase that white blood cell count. But with the advancement in medication, we found that we can increase the white blood cell to a point where, you know, technically you won't have AIDS, but again, once you're kind of like given the diagnosis of AIDS, you stay at that diagnosis, even if your white blood cell raised up, just to show the indication that you have been to a point where white blood cells were at such a low point that you did not have the protection against any other disease.
So let's just take you know, everybody talks about Magic Johnson and his and correct me if I'm wrong because I might not be saying it right. His diagnosis or his current state of health, AIDS or HIV, whichever. Again, I'm
Well,
just
his current diagnosis is AIDS.
It's not, but it's not even showing up anymore in his tests. Is that at least this is what the news is reporting?
So this is I can talk about this.
Okay.
It's a really new scientific concept, and it's a breakthrough in HIV care. So what it is individuals who are adherent to their medication. If you consistently take your HIV medication, it has been shown to again put your immune system in a state in which white blood cells are being produced and the production of HIV in your system is lowered to such a point that it won't show up on the test. So it's not that AIDS has left his body or HIV has left anyone's body. The medication has stopped the replication of the disease in your body. And that's what most HIV medication does. HIV is tricky in that when it integrates into your body, what it does, instead of your white blood cells going out and sending messages back to your body to say, this is this disease and this is how we're going to fight it, HIV tends to take over those to replicate itself. So the reason your white blood cells lower is because the HIV virus takes over those white blood cells to start replicating more and more HIV. And when a person starts integrating into medical care and adhering to medication, that process is stopped. And then HIV is stopped to such a way that it cannot be detected by any test. Like when you talk about taking just a rapid HIV test or any type of quick clinical test, but that person still will be diagnosed as having HIV or AIDS, regardless of it not being able to show up on the test, because we just know that the production and replication of the HIV cells have been slowed at such a rate due to adherence to medication.
So one of our listeners said, you know, same thing I just asked, you know, a girlfriend had it for over 30 years. She takes a medication, the HIV don't even show up in the test. Now, is it safe to say that whatever medicine she was taking, other people are taking that medicine and their results are showing up as it has left the building or whatever?
You know, it's very because like each of us are individuals on this podcast. Each of our immune systems are individuals, right? Sure. And your immunity is really made up by your life experiences, right? Like what diseases did you acquire as a child? What kind of environment were you in? So some of us have very strong immune systems that take a while to be broken down. Versus others have very weak immune systems because we haven't been exposed to certain things. So yeah, somebody just mentioned it, non-detectable. So really what you're talking about is being non-detectable. And even though a person is non-detectable, they are still HIV positive or they are still diagnosed as having AIDS. It's just, again, that their immune system has been strengthened to a point where the HIV cells are no longer converting their white blood cells into HIV-producing cells.
So Gonzalo, what you think, man? Like, because in the beginning, you know, AIDS was a black disease and it was killing the black community, and now they don't really talk about it that much. Now I know it's other stuff going on in the world from COVID to everything else, but is the number still rising? It's just kind of silent, you know, at least from a media standpoint. How are those numbers looking now? 36 years later?
The numbers are still rising, especially among POC communities, among Black and Hispanic men. Those numbers still continue to rise. In the early 80s, it was a gay disease. It was an African American disease.
Yeah.
You know, they called it the gay cancer when it first came out.
Sure.
There was a ton of stigma around it. And like Percival said, you know, people were dying so quickly. They didn't know what was happening. I grew up in the height of it. But those numbers still continue to rise. Percy, I'm sure you have data around that.
So when you consider the African American community and you dissect the community outside of it, the rates of HIV has not decreased for African Americans. And a lot of the conversation around it is our historical context around healthcare and access to healthcare, right? And even understanding, growing up, I always tell people, like, we didn't go to the doctor often. My mom was like, we went to our annual physical, and that was it. You go to your annual physical, go to your physical, and you went to your physical because she worked and her job provided you to have
that you can get it for free. Absolutely, yes, sir.
But again, us as African Americans, are what I've realized in my work around public health, a lot of us are curative and not preventative. It's like we gonna go to work till our leg is swollen and about to fall off. Our big mama finna keep on keeping on until she fall out, and then she, her heart been not right since 10 years, but and it all goes to prioritization of need, because a lot of African Americans are really prescriptive, and we don't acquire wealth in a way that other people do. So a lot of times our employment bars us from accessing healthcare. A lot of us don't have jobs where you get sick time and, maternity leave and things like that. A lot of us are frontline service workers. A lot of people work in retail, fast food, things like that. Jobs like that don't allocate the luxury of just, let me just go to the doctor and ask him about, what my sexual health kind of risks are. And even, again, in the sense of our own societal constructs around sex and sexual relations, we have to know that our community is highly, highly religious. And even if you don't consider yourself a religious person, as a Black person, the context of you growing up was very much keep that nickel between your knees. Don't bring that neighbors here if you was a boy. And it was really kind of breakdown again of the mental, spiritual, and emotional kind of ties to sex that you need to navigate. And I always use the example like me, myself, I am a gay identified man. When I was 16, 15, and I was going through my first sexual experiences, I couldn't go to my father and ask him what it was like to have sex with a man. And I would be damned if I go to my mother and ask her either. They both be looking like, oh, well, you need to pray about that. And, my mother, when I came out to her, she's like, you need to pray about that. The Lord's going to move you through it. And I was still an adolescent fighting with the same hormonal urges that other heterosexual adolescents were facing, the same kind of constructs of my friends telling me misinformation. So us as a community need to really realize that first, HIV has not been anywhere for us. And the way that we, for good or for bad, the way we have communicated about sex and sexuality and health to our younger generations, we've done a poor job of that. We've done a poor job of that because individuals coming through those times of unsureness and kind of wanting explanations, we can no longer lie on just take it to Jesus and pray about it, or don't ask nobody about that because you're going to be deemed a whore or this or that. We really need to look at how we're doing a better job about talking to our children specifically about their relation to HIV. And that just comes with, I tell people a lot of times, the conversation about sex starts way before the physical act of sex, right? The conversation about sex starts when they start noticing, Mom, Dad, why am I getting hair under my armpit? Why I got a penis? My sister has a vagina. Like even having those conversations and even having conversations about what it is and are the feelings that you have when you first have sex. A lot of us can't even speak to the first time, or the first time we did have sex is a very shaming experience. Like you're almost embarrassed to talk about it because for some of us, we just lay there. We just like, oh, well, you seem to be more experienced than me, so I'm going to let you go through and do whatever you're going to do. Or vice versa. We were more experienced than our other partners and they just laid there and there was no conversation. Like the first time you had sex, do you remember talking? Like, do you remember negotiating what was consensual to you? What was the touch? And those
I just remember saying, am I getting it right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right?
Well, mine was only 30 seconds, so
No, my dad's whole sex talk was like, if she lets you lay in your bed, if she lets you lay in her bed, all you gotta do is roll on top of her. Like that was his whole sex talk to me. Like if she lets you into the room and into the bed, just roll on top of her. Everything else gonna connect. So that's what I challenge for people that have children, or even in your own social groups. Like even being an adult without children, we never, again, as having this experience as African Americans and talking to other friends that are African American, we've never really had experiences where we just blatantly talk about sex and sexuality and how it affects us and our mental setup around it, and even our stigmas that we play out over and over again because of things like sexual trauma and abuse, or even just the kind of negation of your feelings and the way you never could consent to sex. It was just like, we having sex because you want sex, and I feel like to progress this relationship, I have to have sex. And there was no kind of talk about you having your feelings and having your respect and not going forward with that. So, those are some of the main things we should do before even talking about condoms or anything. When we talk about, trying to decrease the rates of HIV and STIs in our own community as African Americans.
Yeah,
so let me ask you about the numbers, because I know like a lot of times there's testing. I used to be a part of a group where we would go out and test people in the areas that we would go to, because it was the Texas Black Women's Coalition for HIV and AIDS. So we were targeting Black and brown communities.
Yeah.
Okay. Do our numbers show to be so high because they don't do the same thing in non-Black and brown communities?
So there is definitely an argument for that, because when you think about where Black and brown or people of color access healthcare, we predominantly access healthcare through governmental systems, right? Governmental systems keep track of everybody that accesses healthcare, but if you're fortunate enough to have private healthcare, private facilitators of healthcare don't have to report the number of HIV patients they have. Right, so we can say there is somewhat a statistical anomaly, but even with that statistical anomaly, we still see the rates overall not decreasing. Even in the last 5 years, what we have seen is an increase in women of color, specifically Black women between the ages of 35 and 50. When acquiring HIV. And, we've denoted this for the last 5 years, and we're really trying to frame people's mind around this. The new face of HIV is going to be Black women if we don't do anything about it. And we honestly need to have a conversation about the way, again, that we talk to our young ladies specifically, and even our mothers, because I use an example, again, I work in public health, sexual health. My mother and father were married for 30 years. Then they were divorced. My mother is very much a Christian woman. She was born and bred and raised to be a wife to a husband. She don't know nothing about dating. She don't know nothing about sexual negotiation. So I even have to have a conversation with my 60-year-old mother about condom usage. And that was a lot. That was like... I had to pray about it. I had to go back and revise things to be in a more respectful tone. But again, if you have information that you're not disseminating in your own familiar groups, you're doing a disservice to that group, right? Or even having a conversation to ask them, like, why are you performing or engaging in sex the way that you're doing? And even bringing them, I even had to first have the conversation about condoms, and then like the third time I went and visited her, I was like, well, you want to go take an HIV test? Because again, this is a reality in her life. She's a woman in her mid-60s that's dating again. And, for the most part, I feel like she's going to be sexually active. I can't negate that from her just because she's my mother, right? So, even understanding me transmitting that information from her, because again, the archetype of HIV was not her at the height of HIV. It wasn't this woman who was married to a man. They said it was a drug addict, it was a prostitute, it was a gay man, all these things. So she negated the consumption of that information. So now that she's now a single woman dating with HIV very apparent in her social group, I have to give her this education. And that's how we have to think about these things. It's no longer, oh, well, I don't want them having sex. Regardless if you talk about sex or not, people naturally are going to engage in sex at some point in their life. So, I'd rather people in my life and around me be prepared versus be unprepared.
So why is the rise in women? Why are Black women becoming the face? What's happening?
Because I think, again, we had a whole generation of Black women that never understood that they could acquire HIV. Again, when you look at the pictures of HIV, who were the predominantly faces of HIV, it was first white men. And then after white men, it was drug addicts, because HIV goes in correlation with the crack epidemic in the Black community. when crack hit the Black community, that was also the rise of HIV in the Black community. And while people were doing what they was doing to score, and we saw how crack devastated our communities. So when we think about that, there were people that contracted AIDS in the crack era. You shooting up, you smoking crack, you selling your body, you're leaving yourself susceptible. But for a lot of Black women that came through the 80s and 90s, you were never the face. You never saw Black women that fired HIV. So in your mind, you could have a relative dissonance to that. Like that doesn't, I don't have to worry about that because I'm a heterosexual woman. But again, we understand now that what is it? Human immunodeficiency virus. If you are a human being having sex at this point in our society, you are susceptible to the contraction of HIV. And, we need to understand that.
Well, that Lisa Manning there, she actually I was on the Texas Black Women's Coalition of HIV and AIDS with her. And I went out and did a lot of testing with her. And I would always give my test live on Facebook. And she'd be like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Yeah. I mean, whatever it is, it's going to be. And they need to see that.
Hey,
But,
she makes a good point that, the stigma alone keeps people from getting tested. I mean, in the 80s, it was, like Percy said, a gay disease, a drug addict disease, a prostitute disease. The government didn't even really mention HIV or AIDS until years after it started. There was so much stigma around it, and we need to keep these conversations going even now in 2021 and make sure that people get tested and come to places like the LA LGBT Center and other places that provide this testing for free so that we can try to get those rates down. It's really important.
Yeah, like one of the things that got me really involved in the ride after I started doing it, because my first ride I did in Washington, D.C., I did the D.C. AIDS ride. And then being on the radio and then doing the ride, and I started researching about the ride, what it was for, what it was about, and all this other stuff, and then start learning the numbers of African Americans that were getting infected, that were infected, and then going on the ride. That blew my mind because it's simply, we don't represent. We are like the face, almost like you say, the face of this disease, and it's our representation on the ride, as far as like even roading, being on ride, raising funds, is so low. And I'm like, I don't get that. How we could be the face of what's going on and we can't be the lead in this fight. I feel like glory, like we need to be the Black soldiers leading the way, like Denzel Washington. So so tell us, how can they get involved in the ride, helping out, doing whatever? As far as, because that's always been my mission, because information is power. Once you know, you can't deny what you know, and you're going to either have to act on what you know, or you're going to have to not to act on what you know. And again, getting this information is out there is important to me, because now people know about the ride. You either got to get involved or you got to sit on the sidelines. But if you're sitting on the sidelines, you can't complain about the way the game is going.
There's many ways that people can get involved. You do the ride, you do AIDS Life Cycle, you do several rides across the country. You can participate as a cyclist this year, because we had to cancel AIDS Life Cycle last year and this year because of COVID. We took a huge hit to our fundraising because we couldn't have the event, but we're doing this thing called Together Ride. So really anybody can join. You just have to register at togetherride.org, and you get to choose however you want to participate. You can either ride your bike, you can walk, you can run, you set your own goals, and then you just fundraise as much as you can. Any amount helps this year. So if you register for the $25, that $25 is considered a donation, and that goes into the services at the center and the foundation. Any money that you raise goes right back into our services. So it goes to help, Percy's department, our healthcare clinic, making sure people get their HIV and STI tests and their medications. We have such wonderful wraparound services at the center that we need to keep them going for our communities. So you can just join Together Ride. We're calling it Together Ride this year because, again, we had to cancel AIDS Life Cycle. But you can join, you can do your spin bike, you can run, you can hike, you set any sort of goal you want. We just need people to either donate or start fundraising and asking people to donate to their fundraising page. We need the money so that our programs keep going.
Yes.
And the website is there. So if you guys are if anybody watching is interested in participating, just go to togetherride.org, and there you can make a $25 donation. They can set up their own team there, right? As well.
You can set up your own team. You can register as an individual. You can, like I said, do any sort of physical activity. We just want people to be active during this year of quarantine. But you can set up your own team. You can just donate the $25, or you can go to Action's fundraising and donate to his fundraising. Action, what are you going to be doing the ride next year for 2022?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm trying to talk as many people as I can to come do the ride with me. And I'm still working on Shawnee. Yeah, I'm still working on Shawnee.
Like, I signed up to be a roadie. So but I said, once I understood how the ride worked, I said, oh, well, you know what? I can get on the bike for a little while and, take pictures and be like, hey, and hop on the bus and make it to the next stop and then ride in at the end. I can do that. But Gonzalo, let me tell you, listen.
Here it comes.
The terrain, because you can tell I am from Texas, born and raised, okay? The terrain there is so much different than here. I don't know how I'd be scared going down those hills. I can't go down the hill here.
I mean, all you have to do is really practice on your bike. Action can tell you, and Action can take you on some rides. We also, you have to realize it's like 3,000 people that are traveling from San Francisco to LA. So we're very safe. We're very strict on our rules of the road, making sure that everybody is signaling, going down hills. You just go at your own pace. We have safety teams. It's a very safe environment, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to see California, because I would never have ridden my bike from San Francisco to LA just for the hell of it, right? That's not something I would have done. And when you're driving it, you're not going to see areas like you see when you do it on your bike. Action, what is your favorite area that you ride through?
Oh man, it's so many. You can go from Paradise, which is the ice cream stop. You go to Cinnabons. It's so much fun stuff on the ride. And then safety is true, because I got knocked out of the Cannondale the last time we rode, because me and my brother had a safety violation passing people in the first part of the ride, and we didn't look back. And so we got a safety violation, and they give away a bicycle on the age ride, but you have to go through without any safety violations. And me and my brother got a safety violation because we didn't look back when we were trying to pass somebody, and they caught us. And so it was it's a very safe ride, and it's so much fun. Going out of San Francisco, to me though, is always amazing. Just leaving San Francisco, just the people there cheering you on. And it's the first day of the ride. It's always so exciting. I love that. I can't explain that. You have to go on the ride to just experience that.
My favorite is you're going through mountains and trees, and you go through the Gaviota Pass, and all of a sudden you turn and you're all of a sudden in the beach, and you realize you're in Southern California when you get to the beach, you're almost home. That's always a lot of fun. Also, the community is really what brings people back. Like I said, my first year, I did it for bragging rights. I wanted to say I rode my bike from San Francisco to LA, and I knew about the organizations. I knew that the money was going to go to help people my first year. But really, when I got on the event and I met everybody, it completely changed my life. And they say this a lot. A lot of people say this in the community, that it's life-changing. It really is, because you meet a community of people during those 7 days, and then for the rest of the year, of people who are just trying to help other people who are just trying to be kind on the event, even off of the event. They're helping people get the services that they need, get the healthcare that they need, we have to raise this money so people stay healthy. My favorite quote on our promotional videos, I'm going to totally fangirl here on Action. I didn't realize that I was talking to him on the phone the other day until halfway through the conversation. But in our promo videos, we have this amazing gentleman, Action, saying that it's the way the world should be, talking about life on the event. It's the way the world should work, right? We help each other. We help each other get from point A to point B. We foster relationships. And every year I say to my marketing team, we have to keep that quote. We have to keep his quote in there because it is the way the world should be. So when I was talking to him on the phone, I didn't realize it was him until halfway through. And then I completely screamed and went crazy. And I was like, you're the guy who says that quote. Oh my God. So I'm very excited that we actually get to see each other face to face. But really it's the community. It's the event brings the best out in people, no matter where you're from. It really does bring out the best in people.
Yeah. I look forward to it. I still talk to a bunch of people that I've met on the ride, that I talk to on social media. We see each other on social media. We text each other back and forth on social media. And these are people I just met on the ride. We don't see each other any other time except for on the ride. And we just always communicate about the ride. And we're like, well, we're mad it didn't happen this year. We're looking forward to seeing each other next year. I mean, to me, that is, again, just another great part of the ride. When you go into San Francisco and you're at the Cow Palace and you're going through orientation, just seeing all the people that that you saw last year or the year before, and you're like, oh my God, you're here again, and I can't wait to get on the road and just see everybody. I'm telling you, everybody out there listening right now, you have to, if you cycle, if you don't cycle, if you're looking for a cause, if you're looking for something to get into, to dedicate your life to, and just give back, this is one of those causes. I mean, you have so much to choose from. You got cancer, you have Alzheimer's, you have all these other diseases that you can put your name to and put your emotions behind. But I'm telling you right now, if you do this one, you will be like me 20 years down the road and I'm still doing it.
Next year is going to definitely be a family reunion. I feel like it's going to feel like a family reunion, and we haven't seen each other in several years. It's going to be great. And the thing about this year with this Together Ride concept, I'm looking at the photo that you just posted. There's a little boy in it. Kids can participate this year. This is a great opportunity to teach kids about fundraising, about helping others. Usually you have to be 18 to come on the ride. It's a liability. But this year, kids can run, bike, be active. They can log their miles. And you can teach them about fundraising and what it means to give back to society and make sure that everybody is being treated equally.
Yeah. So Lisa suggested that I take a first aid kit with me on the ride. I believe that they have that. And I do plan on going. We got to work on getting Bink there to participate. I know my kids they want to go, but I'm like, no, I don't think I can deal with y'all. Stressed out. But if you are listening and you want to put a team together or you want to join Action's team, then what you can do is go to actionsaidride.com. You can make your donation there, join our team there, or you can set your own team up. If, maybe it's your job. You guys want to put a team together and raise money for HIV and AIDS for the San Francisco and Los Angeles area. This is where the monies will go. Then you can log on to their website at AIDSlifecycle.org and get registered there as well. So I want to thank you guys for coming on today. Sharing this information.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for having us. I can't wait to see you on the ride.
Now, Percy, you be on the ride? We gonna see you on the ride?
I don't think so.
If I can get out there, Percy, I'm gonna need you to show up.
Come on, Big P. Big P. Come on, boy. Big P. Man, hold up.
I'll be a roadie. I'm gonna cheer y'all into LA. I'll make sure I'm at the end to cheer y'all in.
Well, when I get off and get in my bike so I can ride in the car, and I'll come roadie with you.
Yeah, but when you get back to LA, you guys could definitely come visit the Center Stop located in Leimert Park, and I can.
Oh yeah,
with the center.
for sure. I would definitely, because I always spend time in LA after the ride because I got family there. So I usually, because the ride ends on that Sunday, so I usually like to fly out that Monday afternoon. So we get in there early enough. So we definitely go. Is this center open on Sundays or Mondays?
I can make special accommodations to give y'all a tour.
Boom.
Okay. If you guys are in the LA area, just I'll shoot you my contact information. You guys can come visit and see all the community and clinical services we have here. And that's for anybody. We're usually open Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. But, if you want to come through on the weekend, we got access.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Because, like I said, we go roll in on Sunday after Sunday morning, coming in on Sunday mid-morning. So we're going to see you at the finish line in LA, and then definitely try to get that tour. After we get something to eat.
We have another appreciation for the riders at the Center South when that happens. So we could definitely talk about that. Gonzalo put them together.
Awesome.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you again, Gonzalo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Big room. You guys are definitely welcome to come back and hang out with us in the break room and talk about anything.
Awesome.
Have a wonderful evening.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
See y'all tomorrow. Peace.
Oh,
See you tomorrow.
Well, listening to our viewers, thank you guys for hanging out with us. And don't forget, you can donate to actionsaidride.com. Just go to actionsaidride.com and make your donation there, or be a part of the team. And
be a part of the team. I'd love to be. I'd love to have you a part of the team, and I can help you out with this AIDS ride for sure.
Hey, Lisa.
I guess we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, what you doing? I be in the break room. I be in the break room. Hit 'em in the break room. What you doing?